Hi, Merry Christmas, everyone. Welcome back to this series of podcasts, Psychotherapy and Non-Duality, and my guest, Scott Kiloby, co-founder of KI Inquiries Modality. So, yeah, Scott, welcome back. This is, I think, our 12th talk, and last one, we started to focus on trauma, working with trauma from the perspective of KI. And so people are watching this can see previous one, part 11. We talked last time more generally, more broad, the philosophy, the understanding, the approach, and we will go a little deeper today. So, all right, so they say in trauma work that they are actually, they call it big trauma with a big T, small trauma with a small T. Many people, I met with former client or yeah, he was telling me he has a lot of addictions still now, and he was telling me, man, but I didn't have any. There was no rape, no explosion, no PTSD, so I don't see our trauma. But you know what happened? He said, whenever I was upset as a kid, whenever I was upset or have any problem, my mother will just leave the room or will go somewhere. But otherwise, nothing else happened. And I was like, dude, this is very traumatic. This is very intense. My point here is that there's single event trauma, something shocking, accident, rape, and then there is the whole developmental trauma, where something unloving or something shocking or scary or some difficult dynamic with a parent will occur every day for years. And so my question to you now, do you work differently, or what's the difference for you when you experientially work with people, like a single case trauma or developmental trauma? And if you noticed somehow slight variations on the aftermath of that, or is a similar aftermath? Also, what we talked last time is that trauma is, okay, something happened one time or something happened many times, where there's something shocking, something hurtful, something stifling, and there's some energy in the system that has been trapped, unprocessed feeling, or some words that are trapped there, and energy. There's one aspect of working with trauma, but there's the other aspect of the aftermath of it, of developing certain strategic identity, that I'm no longer myself. Yeah. So,
I don't know what you would say, because you've had a lot of experience with people, but I don't see a lot of difference between developmental and other trauma with regard to the after effects. Like, people develop deficiency stories, programs, identities, trauma responses, repression. Regardless of the trauma, there may be more intensity with something. Like if it's a really, big case of physical abuse, maybe the intensity of the memories may be different, but essentially people pick up some of the same after effects from it. So we're working with really the after effects in both of those situations. Well, you didn't ask about it, but I do work differently with trauma. So event trauma, because it has a beginning and end, you can kind of process in piecemeal fashion. So what I learned when I first started going into trauma with people is that if you don't deconstruct and kind of guide them through a little bit at a time, they can get flooded in with a bunch of images or a lot of feeling, and that can turn them away from trauma work. So you don't want that to happen, because it can scare somebody. So as soon as we take someone in, we're taking them in just bit by bit. So I thought I explained this in an earlier interview, but
yes.
Yeah, so I'll just go briefly through it. Like if it's an abuse situation, an event, the person comes in the room or starts, the scene starts, stop that right there, deconstruct that, see what the identities and the responses and commands or stories are with that. Deconstructing that helps with the energy on that image. So you're doing it in a piecemeal fashion, pulling out words, witnessing those words, And then the image, the memory gets weaker because you're processing the words that come out of it. And then that helps to discharge some of the energy in the body. And then you can move on basically to the next scene and to the next scene. With developmental trauma, it's a long relationship where it's not just an event. So there might be certain memories that are relevant, like come back to mom's walking out of the room. So we could process those memories same way, like, what does that mean about me and all that. But I think a lot of times with developmental trauma, we focus on the identities that result from it. So or mom walks away. What does that mean about me? It means I don't matter. That kind of response to that. So we'll often work with I don't matter as an identity that then they transferred over to other relationships. That's a basic distinction, but
so hearing you now and contemplating on my own experience using KI, I don't think it's so known in regular psychotherapy circles. When they talk about working with trauma, they don't speak so much of the aftermath of the new identity that was built. Because whether if it's a single event, like my platoon blew up in front of me, or I was abandoned in a hotel room, and my mother didn't show up, and then I went through different foster homes where caretakers changed. So whether if it's something like this, both cases, one develops, I'm not safe. The world is not safe, or I can't trust love. No, I'm not letting anyone in. I can't let anyone in my heart because they're going to go. I don't need anybody. These are like a title of a deficiency story identity that is formed. So I don't think they are aware of it in usual psychotherapy circles, that actually is not just that event and the shaking. So that's important, for all that energy to be released in a safe, titrating way. For that, the charge is like when I was frozen and shocked, and now I can run away, or I can protect my inner child or run. So this is important, but it's even equally important, if not more, to see, okay, how did little you become different from that, and how you make choices and thoughts and then things, to how you have now a new lens looking at the world. And that lens there, I don't matter, I don't trust love, I'm alone, love died, I can't trust anybody. How this now, it's perceiving reality, and that needs to be seen through. Otherwise, although the shaking and the energy has been released, so I'm less PTSD'd out, I'm still operating from some false identity.
And so that's what's juicy about the work, because then if you notice, like if you have a response in early trauma, like you feel unsafe, you might transfer it over to other situations which really aren't unsafe, but the mind and the body imprinted that way, so projects it onto all these. So working with identities is helpful, because those identities are the ones that are in relationship with everybody in your adulthood. The things are showing back up, like I don't matter, even when that's not really there. The mind will create it for that. I think that's all I had on that.
I remember I was working with someone who is like a male, kind of, powerful, confident, successful, that lived in chaotic environment and instability and drugs in the family, and then now he's good. And I asked him, we're doing about deficiency story. He was like, I don't know, man, I'm good. And he said, well, maybe I'm afraid. And I was like, well, that's an emotion. That's fine. I'm afraid, I'm sad, I'm pissed. That's okay. It's not a deficiency story. And he was like, oh yeah, I'm not safe. It's not safe. So that is, and then if you inquire into it, it's like, yeah, man, it's not safe. It wasn't safe. And yes, it wasn't. But now I'm a 45 strong big man, and it is safe. It is safe. It's just that psychological. This is psychological. Now I'm carrying this psychological fear, which is inherited from a little boy who felt unsafe.
Yes, something you said in there we shouldn't brush over, which is the first time you asked him to look at that, it sounded as if he wasn't really looking at relationship. I don't know though, because it's like if you just sit and do this in midair, like we've talked about before, you might not be able to name it, but you bring some people in, then you can name it. I keep saying that to people because people are inquiring into midair. And of course, air doesn't trigger you. Space doesn't trigger you. So why are you inquiring into space?
Yes.
Inquire with somebody up there. And then you'll see the patterns. You'll see that you feel unsafe with this person, just like you felt unsafe with dad back then. You can see the patterns then just by boomerang. Boomerang means ask what deficiency story comes up here. Because I just wrote down this stuff hides. It just hides. So you want to be precise with this kind of inquiry. You don't want to shoot in the dark. You want to know what is the story that's actually being triggered. What is the root of it? And that way there's precision there rather than just, let's just be with what arises. And that kind of thing, like randomly arises. This isn't random. This is an order to trauma. You know, it's like, this is your reality and you believe this and you believe that because you believe this or this happened. Precision instead of just what's coming up next.
Yeah, it wasn't that the little boy was looking at the moon and the sunflowers and then realized that I can't be myself. No, it was something happened. Somebody admonished, somebody scolded, somebody, you know, there's in the relation, something developed.
Yes.
So, all right, you brought this up. What do you say that when it's hidden, some stuff are hidden? So my next question here is, how to process trauma when it doesn't come up? Like I have a client, and I could be one of these clients too. Things are going well. They say they have this trauma of abandonment, early abandonment, disrupted attachment with the mother. And the guy is doing well in many aspects of his life. There's no shocking memories about, oh my God. So it doesn't come up, but you know, it is there. And maybe it comes up, he told me, like, you know, only I'm in a relationship and then, but they never work. And then somehow they are on the phone. They're on the phone, they look in a certain way, and I feel this burning. It's like, whoa, okay. And then I feel really triggered, and then I'm angry. And then, so I guess some people come to you and they're like, man, I have this strong anxiety and these nightmares. Okay, that's straight up. But what do you do when it's not straight up? It doesn't come up.
Well, it's probably the same thing you do, which is to bring up those experiences. Like, so if he's on the phone with someone, that memory, bring that up with that energy, then you might be able to discern what is being believed right there by looking at the memory of being on the phone. You see the reaction. So what does that mean about me? And that'll give you something more than the memory or the sensation. You're starting to dig a little bit deeper there. And then from there, you can find the identities. They'll start to pop out just by pulling the memory up and asking a few questions. But it might not be like the same trauma response that you would as if you were triggered by some in your life, but you can still access it. The energies are accessible, you know, to some degree when you pull up the memories and the words. Yeah, so you can still trigger. That's actually not a bad thing to trigger people when they're not in a triggered situation, because it can be safer that way. When you're really triggered, you have to have a lot of skill to work yourself out of that sometimes. So practice when you're not triggered by bringing stuff up.
Yeah, that's interesting. Most people, some people, there's always have something comes up this week, some shit is happening, and then so there's like some crisis, yeah. So and then at some point things stabilize, and they're like, well, I don't know what to work on because things are good. And I was like, yeah, well, this is the time to actually do in-depth trauma work because you are good now. You know, before we were dealing with circumstantial shit.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you're doing well, though, you can look for the signs of it. Like, again, I kept saying, if you keep going, so you're doing okay, but what about that stomach that's for persistently contracted, or the
Yeah,
heart may not even connect it up to what we're saying. But if you listen to us, that's what we're saying. We're saying that
yeah.
this unresolved stuff is showing up right
I see.
there.
So, okay, when it's not disturbing, flashing memory or something, look for triggers in your life that will be a accessing portal into trauma.
Mhm.
Look for unpleasantness in the body.
Yes. Because for me, it was chronic pain. I didn't see repression. That did not show up. What showed up is pain. So I had to investigate the sensation to get the thoughts. But sometimes it'll be flashing in, like just a memory. And then that contains a lot of information if you pull it back. And so
Yeah,
just get little bits and pieces. But the thing about KI, as you know, is that we're conjuring it up. We're not even waiting for grace to happen. We're
yes,
we're
yes.
just we're putting you in the situation where the stuff is going to come up. And yeah, so we're going to be able to trigger you. Don't worry about that. Like that
Yeah,
will happen in the session.
yeah. I mean, I started this module and I told people at the beginning, and it's fair, like, guys, if you are doing the homework and you're doing this and you're coming here, this is going to trigger you. That's it's good to know. It's not going to be
Yeah.
mild.
Yes.
Um, let me ask you something else. Priya, somebody asked me, actually, he's a therapist, this person, and somehow familiar with the method. So let's say this person developed this so big attachment wound, big abandonment in childhood, which created the deficiency story. So besides deep shocking the system and bodily contractions and stuff like that, which can be buried, and on top of that, I'm a successful, busy person helping people. But the deficiency story, like I'm bad, or there's no love. I'm bad. There's no love. So the person asked me, okay, so I know my deficiency story. Why do I need to keep using reverse inquiry to bring it up? Because I kind of know it. So okay, I thought that reverse inquiry is to just find out your deficiency story. And so it's this reverting, it's not just conjuring it, but actually actively processing the story, right? Bringing light to the story. Can you have any thoughts on this?
Yes. So insight versus transformation.
Insight versus transformation. Yeah, the
Yeah.
burning away of it.
Right. So you can have the insight. If you do inquiry, you can see, oh, I believe this. And no wonder I've been doing that because I believe that. Insight. But that doesn't mean that that pattern is gone. It just means that you know it's there. Insight. Transformation is when through inquiry you're shifting, like the energy is shifting and you're not believing it as much anymore. Things are falling away.
Mm-hmm.
That's for transformation. But there's something I wanted to say about that is, okay, hold on. Can I say this? Or how do I say this? I think that's what a lot of people are doing on the non-dual path is that they're having insight and then they're using non-dual language to explain away the thing, but they're not then doing the deep work. So it's like they'll see a deficiency story and then they start saying things like, well, that's not what I am, or that arises and falls to awareness, as if that insight is going to save them from the suffering story. But it doesn't. What saves you from the suffering of the story is direct experiential work. You don't have to know anything. Just be with this, stay with this, and let it fall away. And that's where the transformation happens. A lot of what we're doing is trying to coach people to stay in the process and not bypass and land and explain things away through non-dual insights and stop. Like, get out of your head and into your experience with this, and you'll be better off than trying to explain away something that's arising with non-dual concepts. That's just for the non-dual people. There are plenty of people out here that don't come for that and may not have that pitfall, but that's a pitfall in the spiritual world there.
Yeah, if I can say something here, because I was doing that. Yeah, so some relative insight, some true insight about this. Oh wow, I have this. There's this pattern, and I see it, and then I'm netty myself out of it. I'm not this. I'm that which is aware of this. It's not me. So, but the problem here is that this thing that is inside is just, let's say, the title of the folder. I can't trust relationship or something. I can't trust love. This is the title of the folder. And I haven't really opened the zip folder where there are other files, and I haven't read all the pages. And because I haven't done that, it's still going to haunt me.
Perfect.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of people come, maybe not even non-dual, they come to me, and then I bring this deficiency story up and talking about it. And everybody says, many people say, I say, yeah, I know, I done a lot of work on this. I worked a lot on this, and I would be like, dude, listen, you can have a few catharsis sessions here and there. You can have a little psychedelic journey that was transformational, and I have done also a lot of work, and somehow it wasn't enough. There's some stuff there, so it wasn't thorough enough, you know?
Yeah.
Some kind of, I've done a lot of work. I know it's almost all like a deficiency. I don't know. It's an obstacle, actually. I've done a lot of work on this.
Well, and then I wrote down, well, the body doesn't care about your spiritual resume.
Yeah.
You know, it just doesn't care, because if you have a contraction, you have a contraction, whether you're realized or in awareness or whatever, you still have a contraction, you still have chronic pain, and you still have patients with that. So all the work that you've done doesn't matter. When the identification comes up, it's going to hurt like it does for everybody else until you see through it.
What is this? So it comes like, you know, somebody sees something, you point something, and you're like, yeah, I know. I've done a lot of work on this. What's the utility of this?
That's a really good question. And I think maybe part of it is, could be partly deficiency story. As if, don't tell me there's something wrong with me. Like, I've already done this.
Yeah, I already done that. I'm, yeah. It's almost a shame about the problem.
Yeah.
There's deficiency story and shame, inadequacy about that I still have this problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not wanting to be seen could be a utility, just not wanting to be seen.
Yeah, no one wanting to be seen. So it's looking good. I desire to look good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That stuff makes me laugh, because during the time that I was doing anger repression work on the chronic pain, none of my insights helped.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, other than I was living in awareness, the awareness helped, but none of the insights or whatever I'd done before helped. And it's ridiculous in my mind to think that they would have. Like, if I would just sit here and say all the things that I've looked at already, how is that going to help the pain?
Mm-hmm.
So it's so obvious when it comes to chronic pain, because you have to dig in experientially. You can't think yourself out of it. You can't put your resume up and press the pain. You literally have to do the work. But I think that's the case with all of this. If you could just have the attitude, it's all like that. Like, drop your resume. Your body doesn't care. Go in and look.
Yeah. All right. So next here on the agenda, there's this term that you coined. I mean, I haven't encountered anywhere else. This trauma commands. Trauma commands. So we talked a little bit last time about it. And in essence, is like when we are actually opening the folder and going to actual somatic processing of the image, charged image, and there's a energy in the body, and we are right there witnessing the freeze or the flight or the phoning trauma responses. In that cocktail of maybe image, energy, yucky energy, you know, there is some words. And not just words like, oh, wow, you know, it's not just like you freeze frame. What does this mean? So, oh, yeah, I'm fucked. Oh, I hope he doesn't have AIDS. Oh, you know, so it's more like these are also important to mine out the meaning. But there are some other words. It's almost like what the truth response of our body mind in the moment of shock was, that that was not expressed. So the trauma command somehow was like, I can't, don't, get off me, get
Stop.
away,
Right.
stop,
Right. Fight.
Fight. Like 1 word, 2 words, I have to, you can't make me, there's something like that, which, that you discovered. I mean, I never heard this before, and I haven't found it, but there's some, it's some very important piece of information that also it's a cycle. It keeps happening, it keeps saying, it's a loop. And then so you start to work very precisely with this. And so, okay, so now what to do with them? Okay, so first of all, why is it important to find it? And once you find it, the trauma commands, what to do with it and why.
So when the pain was healing, what I noticed is that there were definitely stories there. Like you say, there's meaning that had to be dealt with, but there was a series of things that came through, like repetitive commands. So, and I noticed that when the commands were strong, the pain was worse. So if I'd wake up a certain day, the pain signal was strong, I'd go in and usually I'd find a command. Sometimes the command was repression, like hold back anger, hold back, or don't, like it was a repression type command. And sometimes it was not really about repression. It was more like a trauma response, like run, fight, hide, something like that. For me, it was hide. So I just started noticing like the nature of that is different because it's commanding me to do something. Whereas a story just tells me who I think I am. This is commanding something. And then I just noticed that when I worked through the commands and they would get softer, the pain would decrease. So I saw a correlation between commands that were activated and pain increasing, commands that were getting empty and decreasing. And I saw the same thing with repression commands. So I see it now as trauma and repression commands. And one, you want to discover if there is a command. You can't use somebody else's experience here. You can't say, well, if I had the command of don't, then that must be what's in here. You have to discover the actual command. That may require some skillful inquiry to discern that, pull that out there. But once you find it's unmistakable because there's a lot of energy on it. So like with hide or run, you can feel it strongly in the body. So the one thing you want to do is discover what the commands are. That's a process. And then once the command is recognized or discovered, how do I keep bringing it up into awareness rather than letting it run back here continuously, affecting body and affecting relationship so much? If it's running back here, it's giving me pain or contraction. It's making relationship more difficult. But if I bring it into awareness and it gets weaker and weaker, the pain decreases, the contraction, and actually relationship gets better because I'm not repressing. The repression's coming up. The trauma is being resolved by looking at these commands. So it seems to like this work is always evolving, and this is where we're at right now. That's all. It's like a window, and I feel like it's always going to change. I know that. But the window we're in right now is where the deepest work is with these commands, trauma and repression on the somatic level. So I'm doing that work in the members area with people. It's difficult to explain it and take people through it here. We can talk a little bit about it, but it really is a process and it's a large skill.
Yeah. So hearing you is a whole very intuitive, skillful. You need some, I was watching you work with someone in the meetings in the morning, although I can't attend them historically, but I watch them afterwards. So to have a way without putting words in people's mouth to kind of have them hone into it, to discover their own words, and you were having them put the person up in the situation. And then I guess there is some way that you were doing it to see if the body responds. So you help identify the trauma command by saying something. I don't have to hide or something. And if the body flares, then it means that I'm there. It hits on something.
Yeah. And so, but here's the thing though, the skill is you say, I don't have to hide. And usually the response is like body and like, yes, I do, or like a yes or no. So I'm just learning how to help people translate that because if you say I don't have to hide, hide is an operative word. That's the word the body remembers.
Yeah.
It's so then when you say I don't have to hide, when the body's saying yes, you do, it's really saying hide.
Yeah.
So you just insert the hide command there, and now you've got the energy up because you did the reverse inquiry. The objection came up. Then you
Yeah.
put the there, and you just witness that.
Yeah. I like this. I started to apply it, and using some reverse inquiry. I don't have to hide, or I'm not alone. And then wait, it comes bullshit, or like no. And I'll say, okay, take that, translate that. No means I am alone. I have to hide. So to translate it, and then it's bring it up more. We can be with it, and we give it, let it tell its whole story over and over. And
Yeah,
I
so
guess,
it's
yeah,
gonna be repetitive. It's gonna be repetitive. That's the thing. Like dabbling in this won't do much. Like pulling it up a few times for a command that runs repetitively won't do
yeah,
much. Teaching people how to bring it into awareness continuously. But then we're also teaching people how to bring, again, the repression command into awareness, and even
yeah,
so I'm working with people on that level, like sensation in the body really stuck. We're getting the words up on the trauma command, like hide. Okay, rest with that. And then I don't have to hold back anger. Yes, I do. Hold back command.
yeah,
And then there's usually a deficiency story because when you're repressing false self,
yeah,
you're not. So you pull up the deficiency story. So if it's I don't matter, it's like I matter. No, I don't. So I don't matter. So you have three major programs right there that are at the core of your suffering right there for you to start witnessing instead of getting into all the, staying in all the branches and all the different stories and pictures. Now you're focused on these three commands or strong programs.
Mm. So it's almost like in the usual trauma work, they're like some kind of safe container to allow that energy to spend itself out, the energy, the somatic emotional energy aspect. But then with this bringing over and over the trauma command as a thought, as a word, it's kind of the same thing at letting it spend itself at the level of the mental, and maybe helps with the energy release as well.
Can I say something there, which, one should be careful just starting this on their own. And I am not saying that to get you to do sessions with me because I'm booked up for 3 months. I can't even take any sessions.
Yes.
Just telling you, like, you're working at a very core level here, like with very powerful energy. So if you don't have the skill to follow through with it, you might really open up a bunch of energy and then you don't know what to do with it. So we say at the very least, come to the Kiloby members area so you can be nurtured and supported along the way at the very least. But sessions might help in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, people who are watching this number 12, we said in the previous one, did not do this at home. I mean, it's a lot of deficiency story work and all kind of stuff. A lot of work can be done on one's own, but when we get to some serious trauma, don't do it by yourself. And there's a huge amount of support. And also, I'm not saying to work with me because I'm also very full. But we are saying it for your own benefit, the listener,
So we're not saying don't do KI on your own.
Yeah.
You can do that, but this particular dimension of it is careful with it.
So looking back, I remember when you came to visit here and we did a workshop, I had some very powerful, intense session. And I remember that came this contraction in my chest. And then we mined that out. And it came as an image with my grandma's funeral. And then we mined that out, and it came that love died. So this is not trauma command yet. Love died. I'm alone. Love died. And so that started to spin in my own, like love died in some obsessive way, which was bringing up a lot of grief for me. And I cried like a baby, like I never cried before, like that. Usually I have grief for like 3.5 seconds. And then it's like, and it stops. I always had this, like it's even like for 20 seconds, and then and even gets this crazy, weird, powerful, calm stillness, which is weird because like I had all this crazy shit, and now it's like this. So I will have this. I cried a lot, and then it will come this. No, no, I can't feel this. I have to. So it started to come up this thing. I have to. So I could look back. That was like a trauma repression command. I have to control and hold back the grief. Basically, my father did that. My grandfather did that. And I remember looking back that there was really, I was like, I would say, I have to. And I was deep in some stuff. And I remember that you were there next to me, but it's almost like you were in another room, man. It's almost like you're another universe. I will hear you like, and what was cool, you were just saying, you have to. Yeah, you have to. And I'll be like, yeah, man, I have to. So I guess you were just, since the trauma command was playing itself out, you were just having me, trying me to really acknowledge it. And then I wasn't, because I was spinning.
Yes.
And then you were like, you were reminding me, hey, I get it. I have deep feelings and cry and all that, but can you please witness this thought? I was like, yeah, I have to. You don't, then you'll reverse it. You don't have to. I'll be like, no, I have to. So I remember that we did this for like 10, 15 minutes, and we kept repeating this. At some point, it's almost like Buddha nature came back online somehow. And I would be like, what the fuck? These words, I don't have to shit. So then I started laughing. Anyway, I could see the unreality of it. Suddenly it dawned on me. And then, anyway, so any thoughts on that? Something was happening there that's like, I can still refer back to it.
Yeah, the obsession thing is useful. Like we spend a lot of time making sure the obsession with the thought doesn't happen, like in spirituality, meditating, inquiry, to make sure that it doesn't happen. But if you actually take the other approach, which is like the obsession is helpful. If I can get the thought, love died, or for me, the command was, well, one of them was get away. So once I made contact with it, I tweaked it and pulled it up like, I don't have to get away. I don't have to get away. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Get away, get away, get away. And then it was in my awareness sounding itself off like that in obsession. And so I just sit there and watched it. Didn't have to conjure it up. I could just sit there and watch it. Now it wasn't hiding anymore. So I'm doing that with other people, just getting it to show itself repetitively, and they just stay there with it. Let's see what else with that. No, I guess that's it. Is that's what was helpful that night, is pulling that up, because that thought was in the back. It was there, but it wasn't really here. So I was like, make it here. See it, see it, see it. Don't let it go high.
Yeah. And it was also, I have to control this. I have to this. But then I could see that in my, let's say, developmental trauma, I getting the message a lot. Although my parents they were wonderful and had great intentions in mind, and I think I had more skillful, more loving, healthy parents than all the clients I have. But I was getting this thing like, I have to be in a certain way. I can't be myself. I have to be in a certain way. I have to do this. I have to do that. I should do. So there was this, I have to. And I realized that basically my deficiency story was that I have to. I mean, I have to something, you know? And then what was cool is that this will just, it will keep spinning in my head, and then you will be like, you have to, man. Yeah, you have to. I'll be like, yeah, man, I have to. So you are just giving me now twice. I having all this twice, needed to hear it many times to wake up from it, you know, to really be awake to this.
Right.
So not be identified with it, you know?
Yeah. It's the opposite of repression. Like if something's running back here quietly or not at all, opposite would be let it run up here. And so that's what I was just hearing, that it's going to run anyway. Let it run here. Get it going.
The same when I was saying love died, and then just thought this thought will bring up pain, and I will cry. And then you will say back to me, yeah, love died. And I'll be like, yeah, man, love died, man. And I cry some more. And then at some point, you wanted me to watch the thought, to really to be awake, as you call, to be awake to this thought.
Right.
And then at some point, it's almost like the grandma and all the people who died and love died. I could see them here. They are here. My grandma is here. Actually, yeah. So then to the point, like, what the fuck am I saying here? She's here. It's here. Her love is here. So I could see the it's not true. All that.
That's
Actually,
brilliant.
it just reminds me that yesterday I went to some dance and this, and I did some shaking. And I was bringing this, I'm alone, whatever, still working with this, I'm not alone. And I really felt like that all my family, all the lineage is in me. I mean, it wasn't new agey hippie shit, man. It was like, they are here. And they are blaringly shouting at me, dude, you are not alone. We are here. We are here in you, as you, it's here. All the power, all the experiences. So somehow I was like, wow. Yeah, I was doing this. We'll get into it about the vertical KI instead of horizontal. I was staying with this, okay, I'm alone. I'm not alone. I've never been alone. Not, and then, or I never lost love. I never lost family. And at some point it dawned, it just came as a emotional visceral realization, knowingness that all my family that I lost is here and all my friends are here. I don't know, it just wasn't that, so that somehow, to the point that now if I say I'm alone, it's almost like a reverse synchro. It comes like bullshit.
Yeah.
Bullshit. It's like,
Yeah.
what the fuck are you saying? You know?
Right. All because it was an old program that was hidden back there, and then all that energy with it is all it was. And when people say like, oh, it's just a thought, like non-dual, just see it as a thought. You
Yeah.
can't. When you feel a lot of energy with it, it feels real. So you have to make it real, like bring it up, pretend like it's real, and then see through it. This is the way we're doing it here.
Yeah.
It's not saying it's just a thought, dismiss it. Let's bring it up and see what it's made of, really, and instead of dismissing.
So let's go to this. Don't have maybe like 10 minutes or so. Do you have 10 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at some point, so as my client who had this abandonment or mother stuff, I didn't quite have like that, but somehow I had some of this that created some event that created this subconscious program. I'm love died and I'm alone, and which almost never comes, never comes up, comes only when I break up in a relationship. And actually for many years I broke up from a relationship, so a long time, and it will just come for like 10 minutes maximum or a few seconds, and then it will cover it and all of that. So more like in the last 7 years or so will come stronger, like some state of some freaking out, this desperate uncomfortableness burning in my chest, and right away I will go to Muji guided meditation or Francis guided meditation to, I'm not that anyway. So I started to face it and to look at it, and then I had a session with you, and you told me this, and you made some videos on the platform, like when you get to some core program, then stay there, don't wander around the map. You told me actually straight up, dude, like if you do anything else, anything other work, and you don't stay with this I'm alone, you are bypassing. So you need to do it every day, 7 days, like you take your vitamin C, So that was very important for me because I wasn't doing that. And then I started doing that. And then I went back to work, and I could see I had clients, suicidal, who has the same thing like me. I'm alone. And actually, when it's so strong, that's why he wants to kill himself, because I'm alone and he's not aware of it. And I started to see how I was beating about the bush with him. Anyway, so can you talk a little bit about this necessity to, once you hone into something strong, to stay with it, and how to stay with it?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, I'm working with a few folks who were teachers, not super popular right now. I've worked with some that were somewhat popular, but these were teachers who were out in the world sharing the non-dual message. And then over time, a contraction remained. Okay. So the work that they're focusing on is these core programs, because they don't need to go to, I said this in the last video, they don't need to go to a lot of memories. There's not a lot of like conscious unresolved emotions. There's just a contraction that's very persistent that has stood the test of time throughout all of their modalities. So they are focusing just on these commands, repression, and because they didn't do it before, because all of their practices before didn't do that. So to me, that helps illuminate why in KI we need to focus here, because that's where it seems to end up for people. Like, so one way of saying it is, if I inquire into all these different areas, it doesn't matter if at the core I still believe I have to, or if I do all this work here, but at the very core I can't express anger, or I feel fundamentally unsafe. That has to be dealt with at a certain point. And to continue going into all these other directions misses it. So I'm asking people while you're here, before you leave, at least try this dimension of the work, because this could be a missing piece. And if you miss this, you may go to the next one with your contraction, doing the same thing, basically, is not getting to the core program.
Yeah. And this is a core me feeling, like I'm alone. I have to. This is what they call in non-duality the imaginary separate self. But that is the what Ramana called the me thought, me feeling. It's very separate. It's like I am a separate wave now, a broken, alone wave in the ocean. I don't see the ocean. I don't feel the ocean. I feel I'm a lone wave, you know?
Right.
So.
And the me feeling has more than just a me thought there. That's the thing. It's not just the I thought. These other thoughts connect to it, like I'm alone, or I'm this, or I can't, or this. And that's why we don't just deal with that letter, I. Although that's I, but there's more to it than that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I started to do it. I could see your point when you told me this, and you told other people, and I was like, okay, man, okay. I felt like, I mean, a lot of my life I was not aware of it. A lot of my life I was running away from it. I was doing other stuff, and now it felt good to, okay, man, this is it. This is where the buck stops. So I don't know how they say in America here. So, and to bring it every day, bring just one or two inquiries. You know, like you'll say, okay, I'm not, because having I'm alone, I reverse it. I'm not alone. It'll be like bullshit. No, I translate that. I am alone. So doing this was a little dry at the beginning, but as I do it more, it will stir more like in the upper stomach area, some discomfort. It will bring it up more and more. Then I will inquire not in midair, but into the feeling and into the sensation. I will say, no, I'm alone. I'm alone. You know, always been alone. They all died, whatever. So yeah, so I kept doing it, and then it was interesting to see how just one day it will change. One day I would wake up in the morning, was snowing, and I just bring this, I'm alone. It will come, bullshit. I was like, what? And I look, I open my eyes, it's just, everything is alive. I mean, it's a whole universe, it's conscious, I'm in it. It's like, oh, wow. I could see it's not true. In the evening after work, it's dark. My favorite cafe is closed. Walk on the streets. I'm not alone. Yeah, you are. I'm alone. So it changes from one day to the next, one day, and then you know. So I did that, really stayed 7 days with that. Then I went to the next level. Okay, because I feel alone. Why? Because I believe that love died. let's go back, love died. Yeah, I lost family. I never know, so stay with it more. I like it, very empowering that I'm conjuring my worst nightmare.
Yeah. Right.
and it I can handle it. It's very freeing.
Yeah. And my worst nightmare was being angry, frankly. That was one of my worst nightmares. So every day I was caught, and by the way, it can get monotonous, let's at least tell on it, because you're doing the
Yeah.
same thing over, and that can make people bow out of it if they're looking for entertainment or titillation, because this just ends up being some of the same commands over and over. But I found that to be more effective in the end than just being entertained by all of the play of consciousness
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So when we say, just for some people, maybe we speak too fast here, at some point you are encountering KI, or I did, I'm like, okay, wow, okay, there's this thing, I can't be myself. It's not safe to be vulnerable in a relationship. Oh, okay, that's juicy. Or I can't let the woman to my heart, or I have to hide, or various things, so I can go there. Oh, I can this, I can do that, and they're all juicy.
Mhm.
So, but at some point, when we find like a real, like with gold mining, some real big thread of gold, which was like, I'm alone, love died, then hey, let's stay with that. So this will be more like going vertical for
Yeah.
some time, until that thread is getting more empty, then go back to other threads.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
identify the threads based on triggers or bodily sense of separation.
Yeah. So by going through all the teachings or the paths or the therapies through the years, everybody has like their greatest hits, like known stories or programs that are triggering, like I'm alone, or you'll discover them when you get to KI if you don't know them already. Then once you know your greatest hits, you can focus there. Just to make, because you mentioned them, like I had a few too, like I can't express anger, I have to hide, I don't trust people, I can't connect and get away. And those were my greatest hits. And all of the pain was healed, the chronic pain, from really just staying there. I didn't go outside of there a whole lot. I didn't do a lot of the KI in a bunch of areas. I just every day would bring up the same commands. And it's just taking me this long to put it into words. Like it just takes a while to explain and to let it unfold and help other people with it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, maybe last minute or so. There's this phrase that I don't know, I think it's wonderful. There's a lot of truth in it. In prison work and men's work, they will say this, that the wound becomes the gift. So like the biggest wound is trauma, becomes a gift. I don't know, there's something there.
Yeah. Addiction, chronic pain. I mean, I'm a living example of the chronic pain, which was debilitating. And I thought that I was going to kill myself. And I thought my life was over. That is the doorway into all of this work happening now. And so that's big. And I really do think it's a cliche, but there's truth to it. Like addicts who hit their bottom, they'll later, that was a gift. Or grief. Like for you, your gift is the grief. Like the stuff, that's your gift. And I assume that's how you went deep, was through your most painful or your darkest program.
Yeah. I see it even more at some other level, like, so as the wounded identity was that I can't be myself, I have to hide, for you and for me a little bit. And so working the shit up, now I'm like really not hiding, really transparent, and also I feel like, oh, I'm alone. So now I'm really not alone, and I'm
Light.
helping other people not feel alone.
Yeah.
I felt actually when I look more into I'm alone, there are always loving people in my life, man. I was not some homeless somewhere, like, no, but I felt alone with my pain. I felt alone with my pain. So now I'm inadvertently, every day, I'm being with people's pain, so they're not alone with it,
Yeah, and I've seen your energy and your body shift. You feel different to me than when we first met.
Yeah.
So feel it too. And then you're more expressive too. I've seen some changes in you. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
noticed it. Yeah.
Yeah, I
You're
think
more,
so.
you're more in your groove or something.
Yeah.
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 In life.
I am in my groove. Yeah. It's juicy and exciting. And what you said in the recent meeting, all that energy that was spent spinning or managing, now it's like you are like, bam,
Yep.
no,
Right.
no holding back, and it's
Yeah.
fun, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Very inspiring to watch you go through that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And so thank you very much for all that you brought here and what you're going to bring. And yeah, I think it's this ship is going to become like an aircraft carrier, actually, this KI. All right. So thank you. Merry Christmas for everybody.